In this video, I'm going to show how to provision an instance through the Ubuntu instance that I have already created through the PAM file. This is the provisioning through SSH. I'm going to show some kind of steps and some kind of things that they are necessary required to perform the instance. I think you have already created the file and you have saved it. We go to the instance running, and if you see, there are some detailed information about the instance. So here is the public IP, is the public DNS, and also there is even to the security group, there is a security group that I have already created. It is very important to specify the inbound rules, otherwise you might not be able to connect or to perform certain work. So depends for what reason you have already created your instance. You create the HTTP or HTTPS if you are thinking that in instance you're gonna use the website, or depends on the specific of your instance. And also very important is to specify the SSH. If you haven't specified the SSH, then you might have problems to connect your instance. So let's go back to our instance, and we see that is in a status running, which is very important element before we start any provisioning. The instance, there are so many ways how you can provision. One of them that you can provision through the internet from your console. So you go to connect, and you go, there are so many options here, and we go to AC2 instance connect, and here is the public and the username is Ubuntu, and we try to connect. We click connect, and as you can see, it's trying to build a connection, and you normally can use the instance console and the terminal that comes through your account in AWS, and you can perform different tasks. This is something that maybe you're going to use because you have a problem with your operating system, or it's an alternative way how you can manage your instance through your account. The other way is that you have to, let's click this, let's go to connect. The other way is through SSH client. Here it gives even some steps how to connect through your terminal. Since the commands are in Ubuntu, so it's in Linux, so make sure that you are running, when you run this command, you are using a Ubuntu system, so, or a Linux system. So I'm going to use the Ubuntu WSL. I think everybody has already installed the WSL through their before other classes, or if you have any problems, just feel free to write me, and I am able to help how to activate your WSL or your Ubuntu subsystem in your Windows operating system. As you can see, since it is an operating system, and that is a little bit separated from the Windows, and we have already saved our PM file in downloads, which is a folder that is in Windows operating system. And meanwhile, downloads, it's not part of the Ubuntu. So through WSL, I'm going to show how to reach a file that is already saved in Windows operating system. Let's try how we can understand. If we go to the home and we go back, we see that that's a username. There is a folder where Windows and Ubuntu meet each other. And here in this mount, or MNT, is where you can see that is the connection, or we can say that you can reach your Windows file through your Ubuntu. So let's go to that file, and as you can see, there is C and WSL. C is for the Windows and WSL is for the Ubuntu. So we go to C, and if you do an ls, we see that we have the users here. I'm showing step by step just to understand how we can go to the downloads and how we can locate our terminal to download. So after we select the users, we're going to see that my username is Princiana, and I go to Princiana and do ls, And here in the Printiana, I have documents, desktop, and downloads. So I go to downloads, and if I do analyze, here it's going to show everything that I practically have in downloads, everything that is saved there. And I'm going to use so there are so many PAM, and here is everything. So here is my key, the access key, that's going to allow me to connect through my Ubuntu operating system. Let's do a clear, and as you can see, now this is the path of my PAM that is saved in downloads in the Windows file, and I am accessing it through the terminal. But before we try to build any connection or we try to use the file, we have to give some certain permissions to the file that we're going to use for the connection. So as you can see here, it says that to run these commands in this section here gives all the steps and necessary steps to connect you through your terminals. So first you have to give some permissions to that key file, and we have to give permissions to read it. Otherwise, you might not be able to read the file. Since we are simple users in this terminal, we have to use sudo command to give this permission to the file. So we copy the name of the file, and we paste it. So this is the name of the file that I have, or the key that I am going to use to build a connection. So we have to specify sudo, which is the super user, and then we have to write the last of the commands that gives the permission to read this file and to use for the connection. We run it. Every time that you use a sudo, since it is a super user and has so many that you can do so many things in operating system, or maybe you can, even if you do something wrong, you can really cause some problems to the operating system. It asks for the password to make sure that you really want to run this command. So after we give the necessary permission of the file, we're going to go next. As you can see here, we have to build a connection, and for building the connection we have SSH is the name of the key file, is the username, and @ you can use the public IP or public DNS to connect your file. So let's try to copy this and to run it. As you can see, we can go back, and to run this, since we are a simple user, you have to do sudo, and if you cannot run it, then you try to do sudo, and then it should work. If you have already written the command correctly, you should be able to connect it, and then you can leave or you can move them. So here we are. It's sudo, it's SSH, the command that does the connection, and here is the name of the file, the key file that you have already created before when you created the instance. It is the username. Usually for every Ubuntu system, the username default is Ubuntu, and then is the public DNS. When you go back to your instance, let's go to the instance, and you click the instance, you can see that there is a public DNS. This is very specific information, or public IP. So these two information you can use to connect with your instance. In this case, I'm using the public DNS, so you just copy paste, or if you want to try, you can try even with a public IP. So now we run it. Yes. And here we are. As you can see, now I am connected, is Ubuntu, and is the IP address, here is the IP address of the instance that I have already connected. Let's try it. So it's a private IP address that I have already connected. So we are inside the terminal, we are inside the Ubuntu operating system, and you can run different commands, or you can manage your Ubuntu account or your Ubuntu instance through your terminal. Let's exit. So now we are back. We left, and we can see that now is our username, and the connection is finished, is terminated. We can use this command here, sudo ssh, and then the name of the key, the username, and instead of using the public DNS, we can use the public IP. So let's try this. And we copy the public IP and we paste it. As you can see now, we are connected. It gives the username and also even the private IP. So we can run normally. These are two ways that you can connect in your instance through your terminal. Also, if you go to the connect, as I said before, you can connect through the console. So you just do the connection and is already connected to your terminal. So these are some basic connections through PAM and Ubuntu system. In this way, I'm running an WSL, so you just have to make sure that you are writing the path of the file correctly. So if you are running through problems while provisioning your instance, first of all, you have to make sure that the path of the file where you have saved the PAM is correctly located in your terminal. You have already written correctly the command. Sometimes it needs sudo to run, but maybe you are able even to run without sudo, depends on your configuration of the terminal. Write correctly the IP. You have to use the public IP or public DNS and then the name of the users. So this is to write correctly your to pay attention to this detail, so it allows you to connect and to provision through your terminal. Also, very important, if you have problems and you cannot connect with your instance, then one possible problem, it might be even, let's go here, it might be even when you click it, it might be the security here, security group. Configuration of inbound rules are very important. If you haven't configured if you haven't allowed the SSH to go through your instance, and to then you might not be able to provision it. So when you create your instance, it's very important to create your security group. And if you want to change, you just added the security group and specify the SSH. I also have specified even the HTTP and HTTPS. These are for hosting a website, or depends on your project requirement of your project. You might be able even to specify in your security group. So if you have some certain problems, you do some kind of these checks, and if you still have problems, feel free to write. I am very happy to help and to share some more detailed, depends on your some more detailed help, depends on your situation, and depends on your problems that you describe.